Listen, guys, I was having this conversation with some buddies of mine, and I was trying to figure it out. Where I was trying to get to the root of what society defines as a man, not necessarily what you personally think is a man. What society defines a man as. Now, I'm not talking genitalia. I'm not talking chromosomes. I'm talking characteristics. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm only going to speak with what I define a man as, and talk about society things.
Okay.
For me, being a man is being there's a component that's assertive, a decision maker, right? Willing to put work in.
Okay.
That's kind of where I gravitate towards.
Okay.
Willing to do the shit.
Okay. Yeah. What characteristics?
Confident.
Right.
Assertive. Strong. That's where it comes to me. There's a difference though, because what I really focus on is the stigma is violent, overbearing,
Toxic.
controlling,
The toxic masculinity.
toxic,
Yeah.
right? I disagree with all that shit. For me, it is like someone who shows up, someone
Right.
who cares.
In
someone
any
who has
situation- in
the
any situation, by the way,
in
shows
any
up.
situation,
Yeah.
has the capacity to put other people first, to bring people under, my wing, or pick people up, put them on my shoulder, and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to help you through this. I'm going to guide you through this, right? And then the follow up to that is, once that initial guiding is done, having the ability and the confidence to say, okay, now you go, right? Because I trust what we've built.
Okay. I'm not going to ask you the same question, Dev. What came up in that conversation was a friend of mine said, I don't think we need to define what a man is because gender norms are going the way of the dodo in the future.
Right.
What do you feel about that?
So I have been privy to a very interesting study. Jordan Peterson is a very prominent figure in my...
Psychology professor, University of Toronto. Anyways,
if you don't know who he is, all those
Great
things,
book. Absolutely.
several
12 Rules
books,
to Life.
all of them very, very well worth reading. One of the studies that he talks about is when they maximize equality of choice, they actually maximize difference in gender. And I'm not wording that entirely correctly, but I'm going to explain it and it'll make more sense. So what happens is when you create a society where there's equal opportunity for everybody, what you actually do is you create a world where the polarization between masculine energies and feminine energies actually gets really, really clear. And those gender roles become more defined because of biological driving factors. And so there's a study about it. Go look up the study if you want to understand that deeply. What he argued against was equality of outcome, which is very different than equality of opportunity. So equality of opportunity means man, woman, regardless of race or creed, you have an opportunity to do the thing. Whatever the thing is, it doesn't matter if you want to be the president or if you want to be a bricklayer. And this is what's crazy about it is when given the choice, we actually maximize our difference based on our biological driving factors, and men are more... they have a natural proclivity to certain types of things, and women have a natural proclivity to certain types of things. And when in that space, they naturally go in those directions. But when we demand equality of outcome, what ends up happening is if we need 50% male bricklayers and 50% female bricklayers, and statistically speaking in the bricklaying industry, it's 99% men, well, you're forcing 49% of women to do a job they don't otherwise want to do.
And 49% of men that don't have a job that the women are getting.
That would be more qualified to do that job. And this can extend into affirmative action and a number of other things where a forced
Don't get me started on affirmative action.
Right, and the forced outcome is when you actually create the disparities between the genders, the races, the different sociological groups that we have. So when we talk about gender normal, I get that there's been an era of people that have been raised that are like, I don't identify as a man. I get that because when I was growing up, I was told I was not man enough. Don't be a pussy. You're gay. A number of slang that came along with that. And so by my peers and by the people that were, the leaders in my community, I was kind of forced into this place where I didn't really fit in. I'm naturally a little bit more effeminate. I don't mind that. I like dressing nicely. I like worrying about whether or not my hands are soft. And these things matter to me and nobody else, and I don't care because they matter to me. So by definition of what is a man, it's a healthy conversation that needs to happen because there is healthy masculinity and healthy femininity, and there's a natural need in our species of animal, classified as humans, there's a natural need for both of those energies to coexist rather than be at war with each other, which is what's happening now with this gender normal thing.
Yeah, let me just back up. Just speaking about fucking have to cut half this out. What the fuck you were saying before about affirmative action. Let's talk about affirmative action.
You literally said, "Don't get me started on affirmative action."
I have to say one thing about
quote unquote.
I know I said don't get me started on affirmative action, but I actually want to talk about it for 2 seconds, and I'll carry on to something else. So affirmative action is, it's, in case you don't know what it is, it's creating the opportunity for, equal opportunity for people to hire into jobs, whatever you want to call it, right? The
or get entrance into university.
Entrance into university, things like that, right? There. Affirmative action not only takes away a position from somebody that actually deserves it, have worked hard for that, no matter what the race of that person is, but it also tells the person that you're giving that opportunity to that they can't do it by themselves. They don't have the gumption, they don't have it within them to do it by themselves, so we're going to give you a hand up. That's just how I feel about affirmative action. Anyways,
or creating a handicap,
yes, exactly,
with women in military,
right? And
to qualify to be a woman, they had to lower the standards because men can achieve these certain things,
right?
But women cannot. They're just not physically capable of. Let's
take that from Harvard. Let's take it from Harvard. Harvard was actually, well, we're gonna get off affirmative action. I know it's not this podcast, but Harvard was actually testing Asians at a higher rate because they're more smart. There was too many Asians at Harvard. Right?
And not enough black people.
So what they were doing is giving opportunities to other races instead of Asians, even though the Asians were scoring higher and doing everything else too, right?
Yeah.
They made the criteria more of a leap to get through before they could actually be accepted into Harvard, right? So affirmative action not only tears people down by telling them they're not good enough, but it also says, oh, you've worked too hard. And because you've worked too hard, we cannot give you this. We have to give it to somebody else.
Yeah. It points to something really important here, and that is the necessity for diversity. Every different background, and if we're talking specifically masculinity and femininity, there's a necessity for those two different things to exist. One of the evolutionary things that's super enlightening for me when I discovered this was, men, we're hunters by nature. That's what we do, just because of, evolutionarily speaking. Men have gone out and hunted. Women have stayed back in the tribes and raised the children, and they were also gatherers. Now, check this out. Women can actually see things in more detail than we can when they're still, which helped them for the gathering. Where men can actually see better, and there's tests and studies to support this.
Were the tests and studies done on Call of Duty?
When there's motion.
So are you saying men are better drivers?
That could be argued. I would argue yes.
You saying women can't drive?
I'm not saying women can't drive. I'm just saying statistically speaking, men are better at it.
Okay.
And there are actual evolutionary factors that we have to put into play before we can actually make a decision on what that is. And when you go through our history as a species, men had to see movement better.
Right.
Because we had to hunt,
right?
And there's that meme that goes around, and it's a joke and a stereotype, but stereotypes are all based on some kind of truth, right? So men are like, "Where's the ketchup?" And the fridge is fucking empty, and the ketchup is sitting there, and women are like, "It's in front of your face."
Right.
But then also men be like, "Do you see that doe across the canyon?" Right. And it's just a fucking picture of a forest.
Yeah.
And that's an actual thing. There's actual science behind why that is.
Yeah, and you know what? This whole conversation started, we got into the conversation of what defines a man, all that stuff, but we actually got into it because I posted something on Facebook saying, to all my male friends, I say I love you. If I love you, I love you. I don't care if you're a man, woman, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, if you're my friend, I love you. I genuinely care for you. And somebody messaged me. I'm not gonna name the name, but somebody messaged said, that's gay. What are you doing that for?
That's some gay
you're
shit.
Not, you're not a fucking man.
See?
But you can't say
And
I love you to another
that's what
man.
would be classified as toxic
And
masculinity.
I
disagree with
went,
that completely.
exactly. And I said, my response was this. I'm like, okay, why do you believe that? And I haven't heard a response back.
Yeah.
Right? The reason you have to ask why they believe that, because that just generational lines through their heritage, your family heritage, right? So he was
It's
taught that
programming.
somewhere,
Yeah,
whether
for
it be
sure.
in school or somewhere else. So I think what we need to do, and this is just my personal feelings, you guys can agree or not, is for men to be in groups like we're doing, things that we're doing, leadership stuff, and trying to show other men how to be at a level greater than what they are now.
And break down the barriers.
Exactly. You have to be able to say, I love you. You have to be able to show love. How do you show love? With your words, with your actions, right? We always show by our actions. We always dap each other up, give a handshake, then pull in for a hug, right? Why not say, I love you, man?
Well, and it goes deeper than that, too. Have you ever read the book, The 5 Love Languages?
I do believe in the past a while ago, though.
Okay, so a quick breakdown. The 5 love languages is this is your language of love. You can either speak it or you understand it, like you receive it in one of these five elements.
Okay.
Words of affirmation is one. Acts of service, gifts, physical touch,
Quality time.
and quality time. So each of there we go. So each of these
you had the last one, you had all three in between.
let's say, so my mom, she's a gifts person. That's how she shows her love. But my mom is actually a quality time person in the way that she receives love. So in order for my mom to think that I love her and to fill up her love tank, I have to actually spend quality time with her one-on-one, having conversations that are meaningful and deep. And it doesn't have to be a lot of conversations. It just has to happen sometimes. The other way around, though, now I'm more of a physical touch, words of affirmation kind of guy, and I take those things very, very seriously, which is why I don't like when people, especially guys, get physical with me, because it means something to me, and to them it means something completely different, and so that creates a little bit of a barrier. But in the same token, I'm really good at words of affirmation. I'm really good at quality time. I'm really good at acts of service, but I don't like buying people gifts because to me, it feels really shallow.
Yeah.
But now when you got a homie whose love language is receiving gifts, and you don't buy him, get him things, and it doesn't have to be spending millions of dollars on him. It just be when you're at the gas station and you saw that keychain that reminded you of him, and then you grab it, and it was $3, and you'd be like, bro, this reminded me of you. You just filled his love tank up a little bit. Right? So for the guy that you're mentioning that was on that
Sounds
post.
really dirty. You filled it with love twice.
No, but yo, bro, check it out.
Once
though.
with a
No, I understand what you're saying, but I'm
once with
telling
a
you
dude
because fuck you, that's why.
I went to Disney.
He said it
and
once with his dude and once with his mom.
Yeah,
She filled your love tank.
right. And that's so important for us to be healthy individuals mentally and so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
Is to have your love tank full. So
And
to
knowing
know
how
that
that is and how to communicate that, and knowing the person that you're communicating with enough to recognize that. And you're right, it doesn't need to be big. Like honestly, if I'm out with the boys, right, I enjoy picking up rounds. I enjoy, ordering shots.
So about them,
so giving.
about them steaks, man.
I enjoy doing that type of stuff. And it's, I don't know if my friends, appreciate that or not, because everyone's going to understand it differently. However, if I look at it and I'm with, if I'm with a girl I like, I change that, and I'm actually recognizing this now, having this conversation with you guys. If I'm into a girl, I spend quality time. And I do, pick up the tab and stuff like that. It's like that's just kind of a thing that happens. It's more of just an intimate conversation.
And is that to fill your love tank, or are you doing that for them because you think they need or
I
want
think
that?
it has to be because I think that's what I expect would be received well.
Right.
Right? So I'm making an assumption there.
Yeah.
Totally.
Because you could go out and you have a group of homies and you pick up the tab, and Parnell's one guy, I'm a different guy, right? Parnell could be like, who the fuck does this guy think he is?
Like,
Fuck, that's such an insult.
What a
Why
fucking
would you
asshole.
do that?
You think I have no
can-
fucking money? You don't think I fucking make money, you cocksucker?
Right?
What the fuck? I pay my own
And then
shit.
I could be like on the other side of this, I could be like, yo, Steve really gives a fuck about me. That's amazing that he would do that, like pick up my steak. That's so incredible of him, right?
You see that
Drop your
foreshadowing?
hand, stop
You
your
see
hand.
the foreshadowing? It's fucking boss.
But I'm not that guy. I don't like receiving gifts. I actually am the example of Parnell, where I'm like, damn, like, why did you do that? Like, you shouldn't do that for
See,
me.
and
I
here's-
don't, and maybe it's because I don't think I deserve it or
No,
whatever. A
no,
million
that's
other
not,
reasons.
that's not what
but-
you do. At least you don't express it at the time, because I remember you and I have gone out many times, and I picked up the tab without. I mean, you'll get the tab like, here, I'm taking that, right? I just take it from and I pay it, whatever. Right? A couple times, 3 times. You have never expressed that to me, and I've never thought that of you.
Yeah.
I never thought that that's what you thought about it. Maybe you did afterwards.
No, but also maybe I needed you to do that, and I didn't feel comfortable being like, bro, I don't have the money for this, so hopefully
right.
you can pick it up. And also, I get that if yours language is to buy me gifts, you know how fucking horrible of a person I am to be like, fuck you for doing that, because you're giving me love, and I'm like, fuck your love.
But in that, therein lies the problem, right? Where you're dealing with people that maybe you're with a group of guys, like you go for co-workers, all that stuff, right? Maybe you don't know them all as well as you think you do, and you pick up a round. They're gonna be like, okay, I have great, he's a great boss, whatever else, right? But then the one person is going home, going, well, fuck, what does he think? What, does he not pay me enough? He doesn't think I'll make enough money. What the fuck? Does he think I'm starving, right? But you'll never know that because you haven't addressed that with that person. That might harbor some insecurities within that person, right? So now you have to double back and wonder why this person is fucking treating you like a piece of shit for the next 2 weeks.
Totally.
Right? Now, either way, it was a nice gesture, right? But this person took it as an insult.
And you're only responsible for what you're doing. There's
Exactly.
no reason, there's no expectation that you are responsible for how the
That's
other
exactly
person
where I was
receives it.
getting to. Yeah.
And it's honestly, it's funny because you see the memes and stuff like that. It's like, I'm a fucking, like a Leo, and I hear that a lot. And it's funny because I see these memes, it's like a Leo's way of apologizing is like, oh shit, I'm sorry that what I did made you feel that way. You should work on that.
I do it all the time. Yo, I do it all the time. I actually said it to my girl the other day, and she was like, okay. And she just walked away. I'm like, never been approached like that before.
Yeah. So this is, I guess, last weekend, just a story here. I was hanging out with this girl that I'm into, and we've been hanging out and talking more and stuff like that. And it was, neither of us were ready to have that conversation, right? The like, oh hey, I'm into you conversation, right? It's just timing. It was just not the right time.
Didn't get the vibes.
No, and it's not that the vibes weren't there. It just wasn't the right time to have that conversation, right? A little early, like we're hanging out, yeah, we're having fun. We're spending one-on-one time together. It's good. It just wasn't time to have that conversation. We were with her cousin, and her cousin is just like, you guys are fucking awesome. And then
I got a story after this.
And then so she sparked this, and honestly, I'm like, fuck, hey, like I know where I'm at with the relationship. I think I know where the girl is at, with us, right? So I'm like, okay, this isn't the time or place to have this conversation. However, it's out there, so I'm like, hey, honestly, like, yeah, I'm into you, right? That being said, right, I'm not at a place where I'm like, hey, like I'm not expecting anything, right? I'm enjoying just hanging out with you. I'm enjoying spending time with you, right? That's what's important to me. My feedback to her and why I one of the reasons why I really am kind of into this girl is the little things that she does. And it's the simplest shit. And I told her, I'm like, what I really appreciate that you do is you'll text me first. You'll just like, hey, what are you doing today? Like, do you want to hang out? And like, that's so little. And she was like,
for her, it's nothing, but
shocked,
for you, it's
because
huge,
she's like,
right?
what's like that's so easy. She's like, I wanted to see you, so I reached out to you. I'm like, fuck, that's awesome, because I'm always the one who's planning and figuring the date out and figuring out, okay, what are we gonna do? And it's like those little things received. I was like, man, that is really good, right? And so that was really fucking cool, and that just created a whole bunch of trust. And in that same conversation, she told me, she's like, dude, like, I know you. I've known you for a long time. She's like, you scare the shit out of me because you have a tendency to chase, and you get a girl in your crosshairs, and you stop at nothing to get this girl, and then as soon as you get it, you're just like, okay, check mark, next, right? And she's like, I'm scared, dude. Just like you get what you want, and then you cast it away.
Now, is the check mark yes actually like, cool, I'm good with that, or is it like, you got there, found out that person wasn't the one that you wanted to be with, and you moved on?
It was like I decided that I wanted to get with this girl, and she played hard to get, and I said, good fucking luck. And then I recognized that.
Yeah, you took a challenge.
Oh, I was like, okay, game on. Like,
right.
Like, ready, set, go.
Right.
Right? And then after that, and I know that this girl's a little bit different, and I know that's not something that I have a fear of, with this girl. So in a different conversation later, I was like, hey, you know what? Like, I really appreciate you calling me out on that. Right? Just so you know, right? I really am not thinking a lot about the sex with you right now. I'm like, that's not the priority. Like, I really just enjoy spending time with you, right? And after that, it was like, oh, cool. And the whole dynamic changed. And it was like, okay, both of us were able to say, neither of us wanted to have that conversation right away, but because it happened, right, it was like, okay, now we're on the same playing field.
You know what? That's an interesting conversation you guys had, because almost this exact same thing happened to me actually yesterday. I came home from work, and so my girl stayed over the night before. She was there all day, whatever. And I came home, and she had her friend over to my place. So I said, okay, let's see what happens here. And her friend was originally the person that kind of not forced my girl into seeing me, but she was like, they had the conversation this night. I saw her on New Year's, and when she was over, they were just talking, and I was just kind of eavesdropping, right? And it turned into her friend just telling the story about the first time, or talking my girl into coming to meet me, right? And it turned into like she was going through the whole conversation. She's like, well, you know, do you like this guy? And she's like, yeah, I'm kind of into him. And this is the first time I'm hearing this from my girl, right? Oh yeah, I was actually, you know, even back then I was into him. I'm hearing this for the first time, so I'm smiling, right? And I'm just eavesdropping. I'm on the one side of the couch. They know I can hear them. They're looking right at
Purposely,
me, right?
Purposely.
So
how cool is that as a dude though to hear that conversation?
It's
like,
awesome.
You know, masculinity trait, you know, to be like tough and you know, unwavering and uninfluenced by things happening. But fuck them, how cool is it like to hear
awesome.
that? To hear somebody who's into you?
It's so
you're
dope.
like,
And you're like,
shit.
all right, cool, right?
Yeah.
So then her friend, about an hour or whatever, leaves. And they were going off for probably an hour talking about this conversation. And, you know, from the time that she convinced her to actually go out with me to that day, right? They went through all the conversations they were having intentionally so I could hear, right? Because I think her friend really likes me as well as a friend. Like, she's like, oh, this is a good guy. I want you to be with him type thing. So not just convincing her friend, but just having a normal, casual conversation, right? And I'm just, as a fly on the wall, to hear things said about you that are flattering, that kind of make you smile, that make you kind of muddle
What you're doing right now?
out of your breath, and just be like, you know what? I am, even though she doesn't show it as often as I would like, it's nice to know that she's talking to at least her friends and they know. So
Sounds to me like you're a words of affirmation kind of guy.
I'm not. I am a do things for me guy.
That's why you like me so much.
and just little things. I get it. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, I'm fucking with you, bro. I love you too.
Like I'll go to work. My kitchen's always clean at night, but when I leave in the morning, I'll have my coffee and my breakfast, whatever, and I'll just leave it in the sink. If my girl's over, I'll come home, the dishes are done. Even if it's two little things, I'm like, it's the greatest thing ever. Coming home to a clean kitchen and the bed's made.
Do you not make your bed in the morning?
She's always in it.
It's kind of hard, yeah.
We had this conversation. You can't make the bed with your girl's already in it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you for sure can. Fucking toss the sheets, tuck her in again, give her a kiss on the forehead. She'd love that.
Usually the dog's on the bed too, so. And either that he jumps up and starts cuddling with her because he fucking hates me.
Fuck the dog.
It's awesome though. Like it's interesting to see how girls think when when you're not in the conversation, but you're hearing the conversation. You can actually hear how girls think and how they talk and how best friends interact. And
I would love to get a girl's opinion.
yeah, and how they interact and how they can not convince each other, but how they speak with each other about what's going on in their life, and how they're able to feel out that person without them feeling out that person. Does that make sense? Like they know what their friend wants. Their friend has expressed it maybe non-verbally, and they're able to say, "Listen, you know, I know this is how you feel, so why don't you do this, or whatever," right?
And it's funny when people have that, because I mean, I'll only speak for myself, right?
Oh no, please speak for me too, just like every other white
If
man.
you and I were having a conversation, Parnel,
Wowzers.
and I was like, bro, this girl is super into you. What are you gonna do? You're gonna test her in some way. You're gonna put some feelers out.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You're gonna put some feelers out.
Absolutely.
You're gonna test the water. You're gonna dip your toe in the water and see how she responds. And then most times, girls don't respond right away.
Is that your experience?
Yeah,
Mine's completely different.
interesting. Mine is. I mean,
I'm a little more aggressive than you, though, so it might be a difference in personality. Different
Girls are
characteristics, right?
so much better at the social game than men are.
for sure.
That's another huge difference between the masculine energy and the feminine energy. And there's a lot of assumptions that can be made here.
Right.
One of them being, again, evolutionarily speaking, the women needed something to keep them safe, and being in a tribe was how that happened.
Let me counter that.
That happens with everybody. If you're not in the tribe, you get killed. If you're out on your own, you get killed.
Let me counter that for a second.
Yeah.
I would argue that men need more communication out in the wild while they're hunting as a group than women do in the cave or gathering out somewhere else.
This is why men are really good at physical, what is that? Body language.
Yes, okay.
So observing body language and physicality, we're really good at that because we have to.
Because most men fucking suck at it.
But that's only inter-men because we have to size each other up, right? Status-wise, because if he's bigger and stronger than me, it just makes sense for me not to try and fight him and get on his good side.
Which, by the way,
means I got to do work for him.
I want to let you finish your point, but we are going to talk about this body language thing. Go ahead.
But that's the difference between masculine energy and feminine energy. Now, when females, evolutionarily speaking, again, back in the tribalism days when we were nomads and we would travel around and hunt and gather and all that kind of shit, the women needed to intermingle with all of the other women and less prone to physical violence and more prone to emotional violence, which is the passive-aggressive...
Physical stress and emotional stress.
The typical passive-aggressive nature of the feminine energy. Versus a man, instead of me just being passive-aggressive with Steve, I just punch him.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? There's a big difference. And again, it's stereotypical, but it's stereotypes based on some actual fact and shit.
Right, and you can see this
throughout history.
And you can see the passive-aggressive natures in guys that are raised by women, right? Very passive-aggressive, very, very emotional, very... fake aggressive. I don't know how
socially fine-tuned.
There you go.
Socially fine-tuned.
Yes, so he's super macho. He wants to be super macho, super right all the time.
And
he's also
typically,
passive-aggressive.
again, I can't speak on anybody's behalf, but typically that overcompensation of masculinity is usually because an internal perception of a lack of masculinity. And so you don't know what true masculinity looks like. So you just emulate something, but you can't just emulate it. You actually got to 10 times it so that it becomes prominent or a main feature. And it masks or covers that passive aggressive tendency.
I used to do it all the time. I wasn't passive aggressive, but I would amplify what I thought a man was to me, right?
Yeah.
So, the loud aggressiveness, I still do the loud aggressive, but it's just my nature and everybody knows me by that. It's what I do now, right?
Right.
What I've learned from that is there's certain things you can do. If I'm going to walk around with my fucking chest puffed out and body
which,
check
by the
people as I
way,
walk
isn't
by.
attractive
it's
to
not.
females.
And if I'm bumping into guys on the street, this and that, and the fuck you, what are you bumping me for? You want to fight? Just being super aggressive. That's the stupidest shit ever. And you guys see it on this podcast and on the other ones that I do. Is that if I'm learning something, I shut the fuck up. It took me a while to shut the fuck up. It took me forever to realize that other people have to have their say as well, even if I think I'm right on everything. Right.
Actually, the display of a real leader is one who speaks last. And there's a couple of advantages that come with speaking last. Is first of all, everybody else gives you the information that you need now to take more control over the conversation. When everybody else feels heard and then you speak, everybody looks to you to have, I don't know what you would call it, final say or whatever, but a more wise piece of input because now you've taken in all of these other bits of information and you can use that and leverage that now to get your point across. And so being the last one to speak is usually the
dominant.
It's really funny that you say that, and reminds me of, it was probably a month ago, I went over to my dad's for dinner, and I have a big extended family. Like I have one blood brother and I have 5 stepbrothers. Right, so and my stepbrothers on my dad's side, so his new wife's kids, very conservative, very loud. I love them to death, and I'm quite conservative too. However, it's like opinion, right? And so I went over for dinner, and I got there late, so they'd already eaten, and they had one of my dad's friends over, and he's a university professor, dealing a lot in people and politics and. It just so happened that I showed up late for dinner and they were all sitting around the table talking, drinking wine, and I was eating. And so there's probably half an hour where I didn't say a word. I was just eating and I was listening. And I was like, okay, cool. This is a person. This professor. Like, this is a person that I know I can have a really fucking dialed conversation.
A fun
with.
conversation.
Real fun conversation. Like one of those guys where I'm like, I can say something and test you, and you will not react. You will say,
well, here's how I feel.
either I agree or I disagree, and here's fucking why. Bang, 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 and I know it's true.
Yeah.
Or true to his perception, right? And so I love those conversations. And it just so happened that I spent the first half an hour of this whole dinner eating, listening to what was happening. And when I finished eating and I contributed my first opinion into the conversation, everything stopped. And then the next half an hour was just the professor, who was the leader in this conversation the whole time, just him and I talking. And everyone else stopped and listened. And it was a really cool dynamic.
There's some serious power there, and being grounded in the fact that you can sit there comfortably and observe and listen without feeling out of place. Even like you said, coming late to something, you know, when you show up and everybody's already kind of mingled and made friends, and then you show up and you don't know half the people that are there, and it's all kind of fucking weird. But then if you just stay grounded and you make peace with that uneasiness, and then become the observer of what's going on, what you contribute when you do open your mouth usually turns heads and gets people interested in what you're up to.
You know what?
And I'd say that's arguably a masculine trait.
Yeah, you know what? That's a great point. What I think we had this conversation. I can't remember who has come to conversation with, whether it was on this podcast or another one of the ones we did before. But once a week, I used to go out and eat dinner by myself.
Yeah, that was in this one of the early episodes.
And the reason I used to do that is because to feel comfortable in uncomfortable situations is the trait of a leader and a real man. To be
being grounded in yourself.
Being comfortable in uncomfortable situations. Now, I'm not saying that dinner was uncomfortable, right? You were around your family, you were obviously comfortable eating, everybody was talking, and they probably didn't even notice the dynamic, right? They just knew, Steve showed up late, he's gonna have a bite to eat while we carry on our conversation. It was nothing to them, right? And then when you interjected into the conversation after you're done eating, they knew it was something important you were going to say, because for the half hour prior, you had sat there and listened. And something piqued your interest enough to say, you know what, I have to say something now. So that is what most people would look at and be like, oh, okay, this guy's shy. For the first half hour, this guy's shy. Let's let him get used to it, blah, 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 right? When you interject yourself into that, guys go, wait a second.
He's not shy.
He's not shy.
He's calculated.
And right?
Now you retrace everything.
And again, back to one of our first episodes again, being calculated is one trait of being a leader. You have to know all the information before you can interject something. What I really don't enjoy is people that think they know everything about a topic when it's clear that they don't, right? I always say you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Right? And
you can speak with confidence on something, but then when you find out the shit you didn't know,
right,
all that shit you were confident about goes out the window.
Right, exactly.
So it's funny that you say being calculated is, a trait of a leader. And that's true, having the information in place. There's a story, I heard this on just the tape of the YouTube video I was listening to. This is a while back. And they were interviewing a former general, right?
Like military.
Military general,
okay.
Right? Who had, come into this council, small council, and there was an issue on hand, and this is an issue that had, very sensitive, and had been going on and discussed for the last 5 years. And there were really good points on how to navigate this geopolitical situation, one way or the other. And this general came in, new guy, and said, okay, perfect, this is what's up, we're sitting down, I want to hear everything, okay? And so he gave each side, each argument, half an hour. Key points, let's go. And this is a situation that had been discussed for 5 years. And after half an hour from each side, he made a decision. And afterwards, one of the secretaries came up to him and he's like, well, how the fuck did you make that decision? How do you know that's right? And his response was, I don't. However, doing something is going to be more productive than waiting another 5 years to come to a conclusion. Because either we made the right decision and it works, or fucking I made a decision and it's not working, now we know it's the other one.
Yeah. And isn't that so fucking important?
So simple.
Gary Vee talks about this a lot, actually, when it comes to, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life or whatever, especially when he's, hyping up all the young cats who are just kind of coming into the game. I don't know what I want to do. I remember being that because it wasn't too far long ago where I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do with the rest of my life. But apparently I'm supposed to have some major and then do that one thing for the rest of my life. At least that's the advice that I was given. And how do you know what the right thing is? And it literally is that. You don't. Just be decisive, make a decision, and then when you get going on that path, you're going to learn some shit.
And
you're going to figure it out.
It's going to be quick. And
Yeah,
you're going to
it's
learn
for
quick
sure.
whether you like it or whether you don't like it.
And I honestly, this is one of my proudest things about myself is because I dropped out of high school with great scores. I was very smart. I also dropped out of university on the dean's list with a 3.9 GPA. And I kept bouncing around and I was always just, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do trades. Okay, I'm going to bartend, right? I'm going to go work on an oil patch. Okay, I'm going to do sales. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to be an academic. I did so many different things. And I learned a fucking ton about so many different things. And really quickly, I would recognize, okay, this is not for me.
Yeah.
Right? I might be succeeding at it, right?
Yeah.
Almost everything I've done, I moved up, got into management really quickly, and I recognized, okay, there's no future here for me because I've been doing this for 6 months and I've plateaued. I can't fucking think about doing this for the next 40 years if I've plateaued in 6 months.
Yeah.
Let's make a change,
Exactly.
right? And then, okay, I took all the skills. I recognized I'm good at management. Great, I'm good with people. I'm good at building relationships. I'm good at talking. I'm good at finance. I'm good at numbers. Okay, perfect. So now I found the perfect role for myself. However, I wouldn't have found that if I hadn't have made decisions and taken chances so many times previously.
Let's talk about that for a second because I don't think a lot of guys I think guys take chances, but they take chances on the wrong things.
Or they take chances when it's not going to hurt too much if they lose.
So it's not a chance
Dive
if you don't.
fucking deep, dig deep, and go like full fucking send off the cliff.
It's not taking a chance if you don't stand to lose something when you do it. And so these taking a risk things that most people say, like, oh, I'm taking a risk when I quit this job. Like, that's not a fucking risk. There are jobs everywhere. And if you complain about, well, I can't get hired at, so then go do something else. I promise you, there's a job that you can do. Right now, I'm hiring commission-based salespeople to do work to get paid to do the work.
I'm gonna give two scenarios.
That exists all over the world in all different sizes
Absolutely.
and shapes and forms. There's no risk in that. What the real risk is you doing the same thing over and over again, despite the fact that you fucking hate it till you're 45, you can't do it anymore. Now you're on EI for another 6, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the risk. Looking back and regretting the bullshit you didn't do with your life.
I'm going to give two little examples here from my life, right? And they're two different examples of risk, all right? First thing, when I was selling cocaine, I was taking one risk.
That's a big fucking risk, man. You stand to
I'm
lose your freedom and your life.
Playing with my life.
Don't sell cocaine. That's a bad idea.
Yeah, don't do it, right? So I took the risk. I knew what the risks were. I got caught. I paid the penalty. That risk I took. I had to do the risk because I needed it. Now, the second risk was I was 310 pounds. And I had to take the risk to go out and lose weight. What do I mean by that? I'm taking the risk of being made fun of for trying to lose weight by going out and trying to lift weights that I couldn't lift. I was getting made fun of for listening to motivational speeches while I'm running. I was getting made fun of for first and foremost being overweight.
Right.
Right? And then you get made fun for being sweaty or for, only being able to run a block or half a block when I first started, right? These are risks I took, but they were risks in a different form of this is my life. Mm-hmm. Yes, this is my life, but now this is an external risk.
Right.
Emotional external risk. Selling cocaine, not an emotional risk for me, right? That's a physical risk. My freedom is in jeopardy.
Right.
Yeah, you're emotionally affected by it.
That's a clear distinction then between
physical
two different things.
and emotional.
Yeah.
Do you want to know which one is harder?
Definitely the emotional one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For me, anyway, right?
Yeah.
Taking the risk and knowing what I wanted. I knew what I wanted because I knew I was 310 pounds and I wanted to be at an average weight.
Yeah.
I wanted to be down to 185. How do I accomplish that? Well, the only thing I can do, I can run. Okay, let's go running, right? What you do is you assess the risk in your head and you make it mean something to you, whether that's positive or negative. But you assess the risk and say, if this is positive for you, you're going to do it. If it's negative for you, you're not going to do it. And in both cases, physical and emotional, I said it was worth it for me.
So how do you get to that? So let's use the running example. How do you create those brain pathways to say this is a positive thing that I'm doing?
Number one, don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about you.
Which is really cool, and that's a really important thing because honestly, there's in the process of starting to do something and becoming good at something, right? Like what is it, 10,000 hours to become a master of something? fucking pick something, start doing it, and if you don't like it, go start your 10,000 hours somewhere else because you'll get there. Yeah.
Which actually is a misnomer, by the way. Go look up how fucked that study was when they said the 10,000 hours thing. It's actually like 27 hours to become a master at something. What ends up happening in the last, because you get 95% of the way in that 27 hours, and then the last 5%.
That's why they say mastering.
Yeah,
You can be an expert. You can be an expert in 27 to 30 hours.
Okay, so if I played the piano for 27 hours, the difference between me and Mozart, who played piano for 10,000 hours, is so minute that only me and him are going to know.
Challenge accepted.
Right. I don't want to learn how to play the piano.
I will buy you a keyboard, and you play for 27 hours. Make me a symphony, brother.
Yes. Either way. What were you saying? I got a couple more to go off.
When you're starting, right? When you're starting, there's 3 different stages, right? You're starting, or you're broke, and you know nothing, right? So you have nothing. That's your starting point, right? At that point, you get ignored. You get completely ignored. Then there's the middle phase where you're grinding, or you're working on something, or you're learning. At that point, you get ridiculed and made fun of and tested. And then when you succeed, people hate you. And honestly, there's a spectrum. You're either ignored.
This is ridiculous.
You're ignored, or you're fucking made fun of, or you're hated when you get good at it. And honestly, I've been in all 3, and it's fucking way better getting hated.
Every situation. Listen, when I started the podcast, when I started the Morning Pee podcast, make sure to check it out on Anchor. I have to do it, Steve. Nice.
Every fucking time.
Every time.
When I first started the podcast, ignored. 30 downloads, 50 downloads, 100 downloads for the first year and a half, 2 years, right? Then you start posting about things, and you start doing all that when you're learning more and you're trying to adjust, you're trying to do this and that. And then people are acknowledging it, but they're making fun of you. Oh, you're a podcaster. Oh, you don't have that many downloads. You're not going to fucking make it. You're not going to do any of this bullshit, blah, blah, blah. Then I get to where I am now, where people fucking hate me for achieving what I told them I was going to do 3 years ago. Right? And not only that, not only do you take the hate, but you also get love. But there's literally 10 times more hate than there is love. But it all starts with, I don't give a fuck what you think.
And this is the crazy thing, and I know you know the answer to this. When you're taking hate, when people are like, oh, fuck that guy, he lucked out. Right? How often do you get he lucked out?
Yeah, I lucked out with recording every fucking week. I lucked out with doing all the marketing promotions. I lucked out with the fucking 10,000 fucking hours of work I put in over the last 3 years. I've lucked out by researching hours and hours and hours on end. I lucked out by fucking doing all the social media bullshit I had to do, with making the connections I need to do, interviewing the people I need to interview, making all the equipment purchases I need to do, and actually taking the time to fucking record the show and edit it and put it out there. Yeah, I fucking lucked out. Go
That's
fuck
what it is.
yourself.
That's what it is. But you know that when you take negative feedback, when people are like, oh yeah, this fucking guy lucked out, you know what that actually means. It has nothing to do with them hating you.
No, they hate
themselves.
that they haven't done it. They hate that they haven't chased whatever they're doing. Now,
It's a reflection of their own inner
100%,
beliefs.
100%.
you know what my tagline is now? Mostly every time I post, not inspirational things, but things that I think people should aspire to, it's like, dreams don't sleep. Get your ass up and go get what you're worth. Period.
Wolves hunt in packs.
End of fucking sentence.
Wolves hunt in packs.
Wolves hunt in fucking packs, man. Find a leadership crew you're with. Join our mastermind. Come into the group. Learn the things you need to learn. Associate yourself with people that want to associate with you and that believe in you and want to help you accomplish your dreams. There's no point being around fucking people that don't want to help you do anything. There's so many people in my life right now I don't even talk to. You know fucking half of them. You know the other half. I'm not dealing with any of them anymore because I deal with fucking 7 people. Literally 7 fucking people. Why?
Smaller circles, bigger dreams.
There you go. Smaller circles, bigger dreams, right? Wolves hunt in packs. You just can't be a fucking herd.
Well, I think a big problem too with the misconception of masculinity and the labeling of toxic masculinity is like, oh, if you're trying to achieve something, then you're trying to rule over somebody, and it implies, some tyrannical bullshit, and then you absorb all of these people's fucking opinions of you, and then, oh God, I should sit down so I don't. And that's that tribal mentality of like, if I stand out, I'm gonna get ejected from the fucking herd, and I'm gonna die.
Or if I'm bigger than the alpha,
your reticular activating system actually does that to protect you. Now, if you can defeat that, and then go and do the shit anyways, anything that you dream of is actually possible. It's a lot of fucking work. There's a lot of things that go into it. And, I get to work smarter, not harder thing, but I'm still putting in fucking 10 or 12 hours a day doing the shit because that's just what I enjoy doing. The big switch up happened for me when I stopped seeking validation externally. I stopped worrying about whether or not what I was doing.
I don't give a fuck what you think.
But it goes deeper than I don't give a fuck what you think, because I actually do give a fuck what you think. And that's the hard part.
You, personally?
I give a fuck what what of the work that I do.
Well, you should. I'm your partner.
Exactly. So don't give a fuck what people think is a misnomer. It's not enough. It's a cliche thing. Put it on a banner or a t-shirt or one of those stupid coasters that sit on your fucking table, but that's not enough. You need to go a little bit deeper, which is don't seek external validation for the shit that you're working for. I am working for a very specific thing. I have my own future-based cause. There are things that I want, in life that extend beyond materialistic shit. Yeah, it would be super dope to drive around a $120,000 fucking Tesla. Yeah, it'd be super dope to have a $2 million.
Really? They look dumb,
They're
man.
stupid as
Everyone
shit.
loves Teslas. I'm like, I don't get it.
Listen, I want the Plaid X, which is fucking the SUV new version that's coming out. It's fucking
See what I mean?
super dope.
And this rests in values and beliefs. My values and beliefs are I want to support the positive changes that are occurring in the world, which means, supporting green energy and Tesla.
Go hug a tree.
Whatever the fuck.
Get to the point.
Yeah, I get that. But again, so just to get back on track, the seeking external validation mechanism that we have to protect ourselves is malfunctioning now in a society where that doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter whether or not what I do is important to you. It matters to me that the things that I do fulfill me, give me happiness. And if I just so happen to find a group of people that also feel that same way, I don't have to look for your validation. I give myself validation. At the end of the day, I don't call Parnel up to be like, Parnel, did I work hard enough today? At the end of the day, I look at the work that I did and go, you fucking did enough.
You fucking killed it today.
You did enough.
You know what I love is I love getting emails or texts or any kind of messages, even Facebook messages, whatever, from people that are like, hey, I listened to the show. I have a few things to tell you. And then they go off on a big rant about something that I talked about.
Do you read them?
Mostly not, but there's some of them are my good friends that text me and I have to read them, because if I don't, then I get yelled at next time. So I'll read these things. I'm like, I want to respond because what they're saying doesn't make logical, reasonable, factual sense at all. It's just
because sometimes they don't have all the information.
Exactly how they played it in their head, and I want to respond to them. But instead of being the guy that is instead of being podcast P, I'm Parnel to them. So I'm like, I just go, okay.
I appreciate the feedback.
No, I go, okay. I'll talk to you when I see you.
Yeah.
Cool.
See, and that's different.
Because context cannot be held in text.
And that's so much different than seeking external validation, right? If I need feedback on something that I'm working on, and you know the things that I'm up to because you're also up to those same things, and your scope of knowledge and my scope of knowledge are a little bit different, and I'm like, hey bro, feedback on this. Let me know what I'm missing. Because
that's not validation. That's not validation.
I'm looking for feedback to grow that, and that's the wolves hunt and pack things. But I don't give a fuck. That's not going to hurt me emotionally if you're like, this sentence is wrong. You need to add this element in, and that's my humble opinion.
That is literally what we do.
Yeah,
and you're like, okay,
thank you. I needed that. Cool. Now the picture's better. Off we go to the fucking races.
Go ahead.
That's working together.
I have an opinion.
Fuck your opinion.
This is gonna be.
Fuck you. Fuck that shirt. Fuck your opinion.
It's just a nice shirt.
I like that shirt. I've been admiring that shirt since I saw it. I'm jealous.
My opinion, and we've been all over the place on this episode.
I think it's because he looks good in the shirt. Him and his fucking big old titties. Mm-hmm. Show him off for the camera.
Jeez. My opinion,
$1?
just to go back to kind of the masculinity thing. My opinion is that we have been throughout history predominantly ruled by patriarchal societies. Correct? I think that's pretty much just fact.
Standard.
We've been driven by the masculine energy that has helped shape the systems and structures that we have in place.
And I know you're going to dive into this, so let me finish my opinion before you fucking, because I know you're going to run with this one.
I'm not going to agree with the patriarchy.
This is going to be, we have like 10 minutes left, and it's all going to be Devon. My opinion is that at no point in history, in any civilization, have we actually been governed by a true, genuine, divine, masculine society.
I don't think so either. I believe there's always a woman behind every man.
Not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we've been ruled by societies that have always catered to who can collect and retain the most power through any means necessary, which in my opinion is not a masculine trait.
And actually, it falls back to that thing that I mentioned.
Hold on
about
a second. Say that again.
Men are
Hold on,
interested
hold on.
in things, and
Stop.
women are interested in people.
Stop, Devon. Say that one more time.
That's why.
In every major civilization throughout history,
Right.
okay, we have been governed and ruled by a society or a government or a group of people that the intention is to gain, collect, and retain as much power possible through any means necessary, which is deemed masculine. Control and conquer, right?
I don't know if I agree with your first statement.
Okay.
I see
I see where you're coming from. I understand what you're saying.
I think we're yet to have a society that is ruled by an actual divine masculinity, which is support and not a modern liberal
Okay.
left-wing support,
Okay,
because that's
I agree with-
bullshit.
okay, now I agree
That's
with you.
fucking bullshit. It's not
yeah.
a real thing.
Yeah, I think
Actually, there are countries that are governed in such ways that I alluded to earlier in when they supported equality of choice, equality of opportunity, and that created a bigger division between the masculine and feminine roles in society.
So here's another thing
Those
too.
societies are governed by what I think that
the higher level of being a person, the
A
higher
more
level of
enlight-
understanding
a
yourself.
more enlightened
Northern Europe.
version
Northern
of-
Europe,
Yeah.
close. I went to Denmark last summer. Fuck, it was
Beautiful.
amazing.
Fucking
bro.
beautiful.
Would go back.
There
in
are
a heartbeat, 2
prisons
summers
there,
ago.
bro, and I'm not even
Unbelievable.
joking.
I would actually.
They
I
look
see your
like
point in that.
hotels.
And okay, so here's the thing. You said equality of opportunity, and then you said earlier in the show you said equality of result. And I want to just say one thing on that, because as a manager, as a manager of people in my role, this is what I do. Given, say I have 10 people, total assortment, total fucking like goodie bag of different, males and females, different skill sets and everything. As a leader, as a boss with a target that needs to get done, or with a goal that we're all working towards collectively, I will 100% put people in roles based on efficacy. I will not put people in roles because it's fair. I will not put people in roles because, I need to have this person here because, they're going to be upset. I don't give a fuck.
Because they're
I'm
colored,
going to
they
put
need to-
people in the role that they are most suited to do to get the collective end result.
And
I know that's an unpopular opinion these days.
no.
I'm going to fucking say
applaud you
it.
for that,
I'm going
my
to say
man.
it because it
Completely.
needs to get said. Because honestly, if I have a group of people, right, and a perfect end result that we all want, I'm not servicing anybody in the group by dividing shit up in a way that's fair. I'm servicing everybody in the group, including myself, by putting people in roles that they are most suited to do. And fucking love me, hate me, that's just my only 2 cents on the education system. And I come from a family of academics. On my dad's side, they're professors and engineers and, master's degrees all over the place. My mom's side, we play guitar and drink beer.
which is probably why the two came together in such a beautiful combination.
And honestly, my 2 cents on the education system in Western culture is that it is created, designed, scripted by very old, wealthy, select families who own industry, who are brainwashing people into creating fucking generations of
Most of
Factory
your
workers.
class
Most of the
slaves.
medical textbooks that you read are written by pharmaceutical companies
You learn nothing about
to
financial
promote
literacy.
pharmaceutical use.
You learn nothing about fucking credit. You learn nothing about how to communicate.
Taxes.
You learn nothing about how to take care of yourself as an adult. You
I
learn
think there's a
nothing.
huge
You learn
shift.
shit about fuck in school.
Yeah, there's a huge shift
You-
that's occurring right now
And it's
in our public
desperately
education
needed.
that has been desperately needed for a fucking at least 4 or 5 decades.
Yeah.
And thank God it's finally happening now. And I've been speaking to this since I got out of high school, and I vowed to myself and my future wife at the time, we're homeschooling our children. And I stuck to that to this day. I'm still homeschooling my children. And I won't ever subject them to that fucking antiquated
Idiocracy.
torture
It's fucking idiocracy.
and fucking factory-based destruction of the human mind.
I remember being told when I was in grade 4. Grade 4, I'm 9 years old. 9 years old at the time. I was told that I was not suited for higher level education and that I should plan to work at this feedlot that my dad worked at.
How fucked up is that? Versus now.
You know what I said to her? I was not. Then remember, I'm 9 years old. I said, "You don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to be greater than you. I'm not going to take advice from somebody who I believe I'm smarter than."
So fucking lootly.
Bro, I gotta get
There's
that
so
one time
much.
off.
There's so much to talk about on that.
Fuck.
We can do
Good
that
for
next.
you.
We can do that next episode because that's a whole lot of shit to unpack right now. And honestly, my best ex, she's a fucking beauty. She's an elementary school teacher in BC now, and we're still friends. We still talk all the time. And the way that she has liberty now to teach her classroom and what she explains to me, I have so much respect, and it's honestly the best shift that can ever happen right now in this day and age. And she is just like, we don't teach these things anymore. It's not just like fucking textbook, okay, go home, study, practice writing your fucking cursive. That's what elementary school was to me. I feel old now. I'm only 30.
That's not what it was for me. I'll tell you that. It switched in 10
And now
years when I
she's
tell
like,
you.
this is what it is.
Yeah.
She's like, it is. Here is a problem, class, and it's really just however you want to solve it. You have the freedom to do that. This is the result we're working towards.
You know, that's a great way to, let's end this episode there, because I think we need to get into a bunch of different things.
With the education,
With the
that's a whole other fucking
with
episode,
the education
bro.
and what kids should be saying and what teachers should be doing and saying. And I don't know if it's a leadership. It is kind of a leadership show because teachers are the leaders of the future generation. So I think
Right,
that's
and
great.
us as parents are leaders.
Let's go
of
for
our
a steak.
children.
Let's do it. Steaks on Steve.